In the 70th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asked, there are some people who have faith in something other than scriptures and they faithfully worship those objects and then do different things under that faith. So what kind of faith is that? Is that faith under mode of goodness or passion or ignorance? Then Krishna describes that one can determine one's faith or shraddha under the three modes. Actually, the modes determine what kind of faith and worship that a person can do. And then Krishna said that our foods, and the food that we eat, and the austerity that we do, the charity that we give, and the sacrifices that we do, all of them could be under three modes. So now Krishna describes one by one each of them. First he begins with foods in three modes. Number 1, 8th shloka. Food in mode of goodness. Ayuhu sattva balarogya sukha priti vivardhanaha rasyaha snigdhaha shari sthira hridya aharaha sattvika priyaha ayuhu sattva bala arogya. Ayu means lifespan, sattva purity, bala strength, arogya health. Then sukha priti vivardhanaha. Sukha is happiness, priti is satisfaction, vivardhanaha means all these 6 things should be increased when you eat food which is in mode of goodness. When you eat foods in mode of goodness, your lifespan will increase, your purity will increase, your strength will increase, your health will increase, health will improve, and your happiness and satisfaction also will improve. Fine? These are foods in mode of goodness. Further Krishna says, what are those foods? Rasyaha, very juicy. Snigdhaha, very fatty. Sthira, hridya, very wholesome. And hridya means very pleasing to the heart. Aharaha sattvika priyaha. Such foods are very dear to people who are in mode of goodness. When somebody is in mode of goodness, they eat food that is very rejuvenating to the body, very healthy foods. Not foods that spoil one's health. So this is about food in mode of goodness. And what about food in mode of passion? 9th shloka. Khatvam lalavanat-yushna tikshna ruksha vidahinaha ahara rajasa sheshta dukkha shokamaya pradaha khatvam lalavanati ushna. Khatva means foods that are very excessively bitter. Amla, lavana, then amla is sour, lavana, very salty. Ushna, ati ushna, very hot foods, very hot. Tikshna, ruksha vidahinaha, they are very pungent, dry and burning. Such foods are very dear to people who are in mode of passion. Ahara rajasa sheshta. Then dukkha shokamaya pradaha, such foods cause distress, shoka. So dukkha is distress, shoka is lamentation, okay, and they also cause disease. So these are the foods in mode of passion. What about foods in mode of ignorance? Krishna says in the 10th shloka. Yatayamam gatarasam Uti paryushitam chayat Uchishtam apicha medhyam Bhojanam tamasapriyam Yatayamam gatarasam. Yatayama means foods which are very stale, that are cooked long back. Gatarasam, the taste is gone in them. Foods that have become tasteless and cooked long back, stale, puti paryushitam chayat, bad smelling, decomposed foods, uchishtam apichamedhyam, although they are consisting of uchishta, remnants of some person. If you take the remnants of the Supreme Lord, Mahaprasadam, or if you take remnants of very exalted, pure devotee, then they are spiritually uplifting. But unnecessarily taking remnants of anybody and everybody and taking untouchable things, that kind of bhojana is tamasapriyam. That is the foods liked by people who are in mode of ignorance. Fine? These are the foods in different modes. So Vaishnavas eat foods that are first offered to the Supreme Lord Krishna. So they offer it to Vishnu or Krishna or Rama through the gurus, and then accept every food as Mahaprasad. Actually, we get food or food grains by rains. Unless rains are there, food grains will not come. Unless food grains are there, we cannot survive. But how will the rains come? If we perform yajnas, sacrifices. And what is sacrifice? Sacrifice is a process of worshipping the Supreme Lord. So if you worship the Supreme Lord through yajnas, you will get rains. And by that rains, you will get grains. And the grains you will eat. Means only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, you are getting food to eat. So a grateful devotee offers all the foods to the Supreme Lord Krishna first and accepts the remnants as prasadam. So a person who does not offer foods to the God and then accept it as remnants, as prasadam, such a person is only eating sin, as Krishna declared in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You remember that 3rd chapter? So we need to offer things to the Lord first and then only we accept it. Fine. That's the best way of eating food, which is followed by all the Vaishnavas. Okay. Next, Krishna described foods in 3 modes. Now Krishna will describe sacrifices in 3 modes, yajnas in 3 modes. 11th shloka. Afalakankshirbhyajno vidhidishto ya ijyate yashtavyam eveti manah samadhaya sasatvikah afalakankshirbhyajno, yajna which is done without any desire for the result. Afalakankshirbhi, there is no falakanksha, there is no akanksha or undue desire for the results of the sacrifice. We have no inclination to enjoy the results. So basically selfless sacrifice. Okay. And vidhidishto ya ijjate yashtavyam eveti manah samadhaya satvikah. So sacrifices in mode of goodness are actually performed according to scriptures. Vidhidishto means according to scriptures, as a matter of duty, without any selfish expectations, without desire for material results. Such kind of sacrifices are sacrifices in mode of goodness. Fine. The general tendency is to offer sacrifice with some purpose in mind. But here it is stated that sacrifice should be performed without any such desire. Selfless sacrifice. It should be done as a matter of duty for the welfare of others. Take for example the performance of rituals in temples or in churches. Generally they are performed with the purpose of material benefit. But that is not in mode of goodness. One should go to a temple or church as a matter of duty to offer respects to God and offer flowers and eatables without any purpose of obtaining material benefit. So selflessly doing some sacrifice or worship, that is in mode of goodness. Then what about sacrifice in mode of passion? Krishna says in the 12th shloka, Abhisandhayatu phalam dambhartham api chaivayat ijjate bharata shrestha tam yagnam vidhi rajasam abhisandhayatu phalam dambhartham api chaivacha. Sacrifices that are performed for material benefits. Specifically, you are offering something to some oblation in a sacrifice, and from this sacrifice, this is what is my expectation. For example, people want to go to heavenly planets. Okay. For that purpose, they may do some sacrifice. So that is phalakankshibhi. So that is sacrifice in mode of passion. And also, dambhartham api chivatat. Just to show their sense of false prestige, out of pride, people may conduct some sacrifices. That is also in mode of passion. Okay. Next, what about sacrifice in mode of ignorance? Vidhihinam ashastranam mantrahinam adakshinam Shraddha virahitam yagnam tamasam parichakshate. Vidhihinam, no rules, no regulations, completely disregarding scriptures. Okay. Next is Ashastrana means without any scriptural regulations. Mantrahinam, no proper chanting of mantras also. Adakshinam, no distribution of charity also. When sacrifice is there, you should give dakshina to the priests and other brahmanas who have assembled there. So if you don't give dakshina, that kind of sacrifice is not proper. Shraddha virahitam yagnam tamasam parichakshate. So that sacrifice which is Shraddha hina means there is no faith in it. So people who conduct sacrifices without faith, without remuneration to the priests, without chanting of the Vedic hymns, without distribution of prasadam, spiritual food, and without any regard for scriptural directions, such sacrifices are in mode of ignorance. Okay. Sometimes people worship some demigod just to make money and then spend money for recreation, ignoring the scriptural injunctions. They are all under mode of ignorance. So Krishna described foods in 3 modes, sacrifices in 3 modes. Now Krishna will describe austerity in 3 modes. 14th sloka. Devadvija Guru Prajna Pujanam Shauchamarjavam Brahmacharyam Ahimsacha Shariram Tapa Uchyate. So Devadvija Guru Prajna Pujanam Shaucham Arjavam. So worshipping of Deva, the Supreme Lord, Deva, and next is Guru. Guru is spiritual master, teacher. Prajna, so many superiors like parents. Dvija means Brahmanas. Deva, Dvija, Guru, Prajna, 4 categories of people. Pujanam Shauchamarjavam. Pujana means you worship these 4 categories of people. Shaucham, you are also clean. Arjavam, you are also very simple. Brahmacharyam, you are also following celibacy. Ahimsacha, you are also following non-violence, the vow of non-violence. Shariram Tapa Uchyate. All these elements are austerity of body. Okay. Now, you see, austerities can also be in 3 modes. But there are 3 types of austerities. These 3 types of austerities can be in 3 different modes. Thus total 9 are there. Earlier we have seen foods in 3 modes. Later we have seen sacrifices in 3 modes. Now we will see austerity in 3 modes. But before seeing austerity in 3 modes, Krishna will describe there are 3 types of austerity. One is austerity of body. Second is austerity of speech. Third is austerity of mind. So these 3 categories of austerities, austerities of body, speech and mind, can be in 3 modes. Goodness, passion and ignorance. Fine. Now in the 14th sloka, Krishna described austerity of body. What is austerity of body? Deva Dvija Guru Prajna Pujanam. Worshipping Deva, the Supreme Lord, Dvija, the Brahmanas, Guru, teachers, Prajna, superiors. Okay, that is austerity of body. Second, Shaucham, cleanliness is austerity of body. Then Arjavam, simplicity, Brahmacharyam, celibacy, Ahimsa, non-violence. These are the 5 types of austerities that a person performs according to body. These are 5 types of bodily austerities. Fine. Shariram Tapa Uchyate. Next is austerity of speech. Very important, because all of us will speak. Okay. And body is like your personal thing. Speech means communication with other people. Your relationships are dependent on how you speak. Okay. So you are communicating with other people. You are interacting with other people through the medium of speech. So that's speech, how your speech should be. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahitam chayat svadhyayabhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tapa uchyate. Anudvegakaram vakyam. Anudvega. Vakyam, your words should not cause any udvega or agitation in the minds of people. One should not speak in such a way that disturbs other people. Anudvegakaram vakyam. And then we should speak lie or what? Sometimes you speak the truth, it's agitating to people. So should you lie? No. Satyam. We should speak satyam. one of the austerities of speech is to be able to speak truth always. Satyam. But that truth has to be spoken in a way that is not agitating to people. Satyam. Priyahitam. Priyahitam means to desire the welfare of other people. You speak by being a genuine well-wisher of the other person. Satyam priyahitam chayat. Next is Swadhyaya, studying scriptures. Abhyasanam, practicing the recitation of Vedic literatures, scriptures. So Swadhyaya Abhyasanam that you are doing now, Bhagavad Gita, Sloka recitation and all that, Bhagavatam. So this is all under Swadhyaya Abhyasanam, practicing scriptural study, reciting scriptural slokas. This is all Vangmayam Tapa Uchyate. All these are austerities of speech. Now let's go back to this point of Anudvega Karam Vakyam Satyam. You should speak truth in a non-agitating way. Now, for example, a student does a mistake and it is the responsibility of the teacher to correct the student. And the student has to be agitated, has to be scolded sometimes if needed, right? If the student is extremely mischievous, the teacher's responsibility is to discipline the student. There some strictness is needed. There you need to be assertive in communicating what the student is supposed to understand. Or sometimes the parents may become little strict with the children. Fine. So how can you be Anudvega Karam Vakyam? Yes. At that time, one can be firm in one's speech, but that has to be done with a well-wishing intent. When a teacher is disciplining the student, or when a parent is disciplining the child, they do with well-wishing intent. Okay. So one should not unnecessarily agitate the minds of people who are not connected to you. Now Krishna began this whole Bhagavad Gita teachings by first chastising Arjuna. What are the first words that came out of Krishna's mouth in the second chapter? So Krishna says that Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupasthitam anaryajustam asvargam akirtikaram Arjuna. Krishna says, where did this impurity come into your mind? Kutastva kashmalam idam. And in this kind of crisis hour, your mind has become polluted or what? Okay. And Krishna goes on to say that akirtikaram, it is causing you infamy. Asvargyam, it will not elevate you to heavenly planets. Or klaibyam, kshudram, hridaya daurbalyam, its weakness of heart. These are all full chastisement going on. And now Krishna is giving the teaching of Anudvega Karam Vakyam. So at that time, Krishna had to agitate Arjuna. Krishna had to speak very strongly so that Arjuna will understand the gravity of the situation and come back to his senses and then pick up his bow and then start fighting. So sometimes it is required to be little firm and very strict and strict in one's speech, right? So Krishna is doing that. So if needed, a teacher has to do that with student. So, but that has to be done only with inner circles. If you are a teacher, you can do it with a student. If you are a parent, you can do it with your child. If you are an elder, you can do it with your dependent. If you are a master, you may do it with your servant. But you cannot do it with anyone and everyone under the sky. That's the whole point here. So, a teacher may speak the truth for the instruction of his students, but he should not speak that kind of truth in a disturbing way to people who are other than his students, just to agitate their minds. So besides that, one should not talk nonsense. Anudvega Karam Vakyam Satyam Prihitam Chayat, this all austerity of speech also includes that one should not unnecessarily speak some nonsense, just passing comments. Some light-hearted talk may be there, some jovial discussion and conversation amongst friends could be there, but unnecessarily wasting time in prolonged, useless, unworthy discussions is never recommended in the scriptures. Fine. So speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures, and it should be presented in a very pleasant manner. Presentation has to be pleasant. If the presentation is not pleasant and it is agitating, people cannot accept it. Okay. Anyways, that is austerity of speech. What about austerity of mind? Manaha prasadah saumyatvam maunam atma vinigrahah bhava samshuddhirityetat tapo manasamuchyate manaha prasadah saumyatvam. This is austerity of mind. Krishna says prasadaha, satisfaction. Saumya means simplicity, no duplicity. Manaha prasadaha saumyatvam. Maunam atma vinigraha. Maunam means gravity or silence. Maunam is literally silence. Oftentimes that's the popular meaning of maunam. But that silence indicates gravity. Grave, being grave. And you may sometimes speak if needed. Otherwise you be silent. Okay. But that silence basically indicates gravity here. Fine. Then atma vinigraha means self-control. Bhava samsuddhir, purity of heart, purity of emotions, purity of thoughts. Then tapo manasam uchyate. So these are the austerities of mind. So austerity of mind is satisfaction, simplicity, gravity or silence, self-control and purity of heart. So these are all mind's austerity. Ultimately the mind's austerity is to detach the mind from sense gratification and not allow the senses to run behind sense gratificatory objects which are prohibited. Yeah, all senses need some kind of gratification. Your tongue needs some palatable food. Your ears need some kind of pleasant music. Birds are chirping here and it's very pleasant thing. I will do austerity of my ears. You can't just go and stand next to some horrible sound whole day. I'm doing austerity of ears. That's not the point here. So your senses need some kind of pleasant contact with sense objects, but that should not be very undue sense gratification that could degrade a person. In the name of eating some tasty food, you cannot go overboard and then eat all kinds of palatable food and spoil your health and overload your system. That will ultimately agitate the senses and make one lusty or angry. Fine. Or undigested food, etc., etc. So many things are there if you overeat. So some tasty food, simple digestible food is needed. Fine. Anyways, so the mind's austerity is to control all these senses. Fine. It should be trained that it can always be thinking of doing good to others, not causing any harm. So these are the three types of austerities. And these three types of austerities, what are the three types of austerities that we discussed till now? Body, speech and mind. So these three types of austerities can be under three modes: goodness, passion and ignorance. Krishna will describe that in the next three shlokas. 17th shloka. Shraddhaya paraya taptam tapastat trividham naraihi afalakankshibhir yuktaihi satvikam parichakshate. So austerity in mode of goodness is performed with transcendental faith. Shraddhaya paraya taptam. Taptam is austerity. Shraddhaya paraya means with a divine faith, with spiritual faith you perform this austerity. And tapastat trividham naraihi afalakanshibhir yuktaha, not expecting any material benefits. And satvikam parichakshate, for the sake of the Supreme Lord. So austerity in mode of goodness is performed with faith, without any selfish expectations and only for the sake of Supreme. That is austerity in mode of goodness. And this austerity can be austerity of body or speech or mind. Okay. Then 18th shloka. Satkaramana pujartham tapodambhena chaiva yat kriyate tadiha proktam rajasam chalamadhruvam. Austerity in mode of passion, Krishna says. Satkara mana pujartham, out of pride and for in expectation of satkara, respect, honor and worship from others. Satkara mana pujartham means you are doing some austerity, you are speaking austerity in expectation of respect and puja. Oh, if I do this austerity, people will glorify me as an austere person. So you keep silent. Okay, so that is, keeping silence is also a part of your austerity of speech. Okay, you are keeping silence. Okay, then your purpose is, if I am silent and sober, people will glorify me as an austere person. See, he is doing austerity. So like that, just for expecting some honor. So that is austerity in passion. Then also, tapodambhena chevena. Tapodambhena chevayat, out of pride. And it is neither stable nor permanent. So that kind of austerity that you are doing just for expectation of honor and for some material benefit, you will never be able to continue that kind of austerity. It's not stable austerity. You may do today, tomorrow you cannot keep silent. You today are silent, tomorrow you will start speaking. Then people will understand how austere you are. Today you will restrain your mouth from speaking, and tomorrow you will start speaking. Today you will restrain your tongue from eating some palatable dishes, and after 2 days you will again resume. So that austerity is not sustainable. Austerity in passion. Then what about austerity in ignorance? Krishna says, Modhagrahenatmano yat pidaya kriyate tapaha parasyotsadanartham va tattama samudahritam. Austerity in mode of goodness, mode of ignorance, is performed out of foolishness. Modha, foolishness, with self-torture and to destroy or injure others. For example, there is a demon named Vrakasura. You know Vrakasura? Or Hiranyakashipu also. They all performed austerities. They tortured their body. Self-torture was there. In fact, Hiranyakashipu's half the body is completely eaten by insects and ants. Only his bones are there. Bones are visible. When Brahmaji came to give benedictions to Hiranyakashipu, he could not notice Hiranyakashipu. He could not recognize, because half the body is totally eaten up by insects. He was maintaining his life airs only within the rib cage, no flesh. That kind of austerity he has done. For what? To get some material benedictions, and he has exhibited a lot of sense control to get these benedictions. But as soon as he got the benedictions, he became a victim of uncontrolled senses. To get the material benediction, lot of sense control. After getting the material benediction, no sense control at all. Okay, he was constantly dissatisfied, enjoying sense gratification. Because sense gratification, enjoying senses in either through illicit sex or any other form, eating so much, or drinking so much, smoking so much, or indulging in sex so much. So this kind of sense gratification, this kind of sense enjoyment will actually not give enjoyment. It will only give you urge to further enjoy, because in this enjoyment you are not satisfied. At the end of this sense gratification, you will be left with a feeling of dissatisfaction and a desire to get more. And again you will engage. So like that, perpetually you are engaging in sense gratificatory desire, sensual enjoyment, and perpetually you are getting dissatisfied. Because senses are not the source of happiness. Your search for happiness, your search for satisfaction is in the wrong direction. That's the reason why you are getting dissatisfied. So sense gratification can never give satisfaction. It's only an imagination. Okay. And on the other hand, we have another example, Vrakasur. Vrakasur was taking out flesh from his body and offering in fire to please Lord Shiva. And he was offering so much of flesh in the fire, and then he was doing some austerity for Lord Shiva, and Shiva did not come only. Then finally, because when Shiva is not coming, this Vrakasur wanted to cut his head and throw it in the fire. He was about to cut his head. And Shiva manifested from the sacrificial fire and said, "Stop this nonsense, what do you want?" Then Vrakasur said, "I want to put my hand on somebody's head and that person should die. This is the great benediction that I want from you." See, here it is said that to destroy or injure others. In austerity of ignorance, that is parasyotsadanartham va, just to torture other people. One, there is self-torture is there to get the benediction, and after that torturing others. You torture yourself before, then later you torture others. You do sense control before, later you enjoy senses later. So this is the kind of austerity in mode of ignorance. Then Vrakasur got the benediction because Shiva was obliged to give. He promised him. So as soon as Vrakasur got this benediction, he wanted to put his hand on Shiva only. Then Shiva just ran away. Then Vishnu came and protected him. You know the story. So these are different austerities in different modes. Next, charity in 3 modes. Krishna describes. 20th shloka. दातव्यमिति यद्दानं दीयते अनुपकारिणे देशे काले च पात्रे च तद्दानं सात्विकं स्मृतं दातव्यमिति यद्दानं दीयते अनुपकारिणे. Charity in mode of goodness is given out of duty, okay, and without any expectation in return. Today I am giving this charity, tomorrow my photo will come in the newspaper, okay, or I will be glorified as a great charitable person, or today I will give charity to this person, tomorrow he will work for me in some way, just for this I am giving. So this kind of expectations are not there. A person will dutifully give charity selflessly without expecting anything from others, and at proper time, at proper place, to a worthy person. Datavyam iti yaddanam phalam, where is it? Diyate anupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha, at proper desha, proper place, kale, proper time, patre, to a proper candidate. Tad danam satvikam smritam. Such a danam is really danam in mode of goodness. Next, charity in mode of passion. Yattu pratyupakarartham phalam uddishya va punaha diyate cha pariklishtam taddanam rajasam smritam. Yattu pratyupakarartham means there is a clear expectation that this person will work for me. I am doing upakar to him. I am giving him some charity. Tomorrow he has to help me. If you are giving charity with that expectation, that is mode of passion. In mode of goodness, that expectation is not there. Okay. Then at an improper, with a desire for fruitive results, and in a grudging mood or unwillingly, oh, I am obliged to give, take this. No willingness, no voluntary spirit, no inspiration from within to help somebody. We are just giving, just take it. Or in a grudging mood, or to compete with others. Oh, he gave you 10 rupees, I will give you 20 rupees. Okay. So these are all charities in mode of passion. Then what about charity in mode of ignorance? Krishna says, Adeshakale yaddanam apatrebhyascha diyate asatkritam avagnatam tattamasamudahritam. So charity in ignorance is given adesha, at an improper place, kala, at an improper time, then apatra, to an improper person. For example, somebody is coming, today I don't have money, can you please give me some charity? I want to drink wine. And you give, okay, take this 1,000 rupees and drink wine. What kind of charity is that? To give charity, to do a sinful activity, or to do some activity which is detrimental to the person's health or person's overall well-being, that kind of charity is not a proper charity, right? So with disregard, without any courtesy, without following any rules and regulations, so this kind of charity is in charity in ignorance. Fine? Then, so contributions for indulgence in intoxication and gambling are not encouraged. Such charity is not beneficial. It is not beneficial to you who is giving charity. It is not beneficial to the person who is receiving the charity also. That kind of charity is never encouraged in Shastras. Then, so far, Krishna has described the existence of a person under the three modes. So far we saw foods in three modes, sacrifices in three modes, austerity in three modes. First three types of austerity, and those three types of austerities in three modes. Then charity in three modes. Fine. So these different activities that people do under three modes determines their faith. Okay. So all three modes and their combinations are defective and bind one to the material world. Now Krishna will explain that all defects can be removed by chanting Om Tat Sat. Okay. Everything that you are doing is under three modes. So, but if you chant Om Tat Sat or the names of Lord Vishnu, then the activity in itself will become transcendental. So, to convert your activity into a transcendental activity, we can chant Om Tat Sat. Thus, the person who has non-scriptural faith can gradually be elevated. Now, in the last section of this chapter, how much time do we have?
6:45 is now.
But the light is failing. Is it okay to continue for 15 more minutes? No?
Good.
Fine. So we can complete the chapter. So now in the last 5 shlokas, Krishna will describe. This section describes the right spirit of performing sacrifice, charity, austerity, etc. Yajna, Dana, Tapa, Krishna said. So what is the right spirit of conducting Yajna, Dana and Tapa? Krishna will speak in the next few shlokas. 23rd shloka. Om Tat Saditi Nirdesho Brahmanas Trivithas Brahmanastena Vedascha Yajnascha Vihita Pura Om Tat Sat Iti Nirdesho. Om Tat Sat is the mantra. These 3 words actually indicate the absolute truth, the supreme absolute truth, Krishna. Okay. And Brahmanas Trividhas Smritaha Brahmanas Tena Vedascha. And they are chanted by the Brahmanas during the sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Fine. Yagnascha Vihita Pura. So during the sacrifices, Om Tat Sat, these 3 sounds or these 3 syllables are chanted. Om Tat Sat. Fine. So we will discuss. 24th shloka describes what is Om. 25th shloka Tat. 26 and 27 shlokas about Sat. And last shloka about Asat, which is not a part of mantra. So now in the 23rd shloka, Krishna said that Om Tat Sat is chanted by different priests and brahmanas during sacrifices. Okay, what is the significance of this? Krishna will describe one by one. 24th shloka. Tasmadomityudaharitya Yagnadana tapah kriyaha Pravartante vidhanoktaha Satatam brahmavadinam Tasmad Om iti udaharitya. This Om, udaharitya means it is always chanted in the beginning by those who perform Yajna, Dana, Tapa. Yajna is sacrifice, Dana is charity, Tapa is austerity. So before doing Yajna, Dana or Tapa, Om is chanted in accordance with scriptural regulations to attain the Supreme. When you chant Om, then you have a possibility to attain the Supreme. So for example, I'll give you an example. You have studied the 8th canto of Bhagavatam. There Bali Maharaj was offering Dana, charity to Vamanadeva. And Sukracharya asked, did you chant Om? Okay. So when you are performing Dana, and if you utter Om, then the Dana is is effective, right? And you are committing to the Dana, the process of Dana, by chanting Om. So you are committing to the person who is receiving that charity when you are uttering Om. So Sukracharya asked Bali Maharaj, did you chant Om? Okay, like that. So Om is chanted before Yajna, Dana and Tapa. Fine. And it is ultimately meant to enable a person to attain the Supreme Lord. 25th shloka is about Tat. Tat iti anabhisandhaya तदित्यनभिसन्धाय फलं यज्ञतपः क्रियाः दानक्रियाश्च विविधाः क्रियन्ते मोक्षकाङ्क्षिभिः. So what about this tat? In the 25th shloka, Krishna is saying tat is uttered by persons aspiring for liberation from material entanglement. Tat idi anabhisandhaya phalam yajna tapah kriyaha. When you are performing yajna or tapa or other kriyas before charity or austerity or sacrifice without desiring any results, right? So anabhisandhaya phalam, you are not desiring results. So dana kriyasya vividhaha kriyante moksha kankshibhi. You are not expecting any fruitive results, but you are having one kanksha, one desire. What is that? Moksha kanksha, desire for liberation. So tat, when you utter tat before doing any yajna, dana or tapa, then you are aspiring for liberation from material entanglement. Fine. So then that is 25th shloka. 26th and 27th shlokas are about sat. Sadbhave sadhubhave cha sadityetat prayunjate prashaste karmani tatha satshabdah partha yujyate yagne tapasi dane cha sthitihi saditi चोच्यते कर्म चैव तदर्थीयां सदित्येवाभिधीयते. In these two shlokas, Krishna describes the significance of uttering Sat. Om Tat Sat, right? Sat. So Sat is used to indicate the absolute truth. Sadbhavi. Next is Sadhu Bhavi, and also the knower or seeker of absolute truth, or performer of sacrifice, that is sadhu bhave. Bhava means the mood in which you utter this word sat. Okay, what is the mood in which you utter sat? One is sat bhave. Sat means indicating the absolute truth. Sadhu bhave, indicating a devotee, or indicating a spiritual seeker, or indicating a performer of yajna or dana or tapa. Fine. Sat bhave, sadhu bhave cha saditi etat prayunjate. That is how you utter the word Sat. All auspicious works of sacrifice, austerity and charity are performed to please the Supreme Person. Any work dedicated to the Lord is permanent and is called Sat. Sat means truth. Sat also indicates that it is eternal, everlasting. Fine. So the word Sat is used to indicate the absolute truth, which is eternal, which is the ultimate truth. So thus, by chanting Om Tat Sat, your yajna, dana and tapa will become successful and will enable you to transcend the material modes gradually. Fine. So this is about Om Tat Sat. And in the last shloka, so far Krishna is speaking about Shraddha. Arjuna asked about Shraddha. When somebody is having some faith which is non-scriptural, what kind of faith is that? Is that faith in goodness or passion or ignorance? Then Krishna says, one's faith can be ascertained by what he does, what kind of yajna he does, what kind of food he eats, what kind of dana he does, what kind of tapa he does. So then he described foods in three modes, austerities in three modes, and yajnas in three modes, dana in three modes, tapa in three modes. Okay, all that he described. And this is how you ascertain faith, he said. Then to convert that non-scriptural faith towards transcendence, so you need to chant Om Tat Sat, he said. What about Ashraddha? Krishna says, Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat asadityuchyate partha nachatat pretyano iha. Ashraddhaya, without any faith, hutam dattam, tapaha taptam kritam chayat. Whether you do austerity or sacrifice or penance or charity without any faith in the Supreme, that is impermanent. That is called Asat. So in the previous shloka, Krishna said about Sat, that makes your results eternal. But here he is speaking about Asat. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and in the next life. So one has to perform austerities, charities, and what else? Yajna, sacrifices. Yajna, dana, tapa. Yajna is sacrifice, dana is charity, then tapa is austerity. One has to do these three things with transcendental faith. And while doing these three things, if you chant Om Tat Sat, then you can attain the Supreme. You can gradually convert your faith under the three modes into transcendental faith. Thus you can attain the Supreme eventually. But without any Shraddha, if you just do these three things, then that will keep you perpetually in this world only. So in this way, Krishna concluded this chapter about divisions of faith. Thank you all very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.